Alien dragon brought her dying child to human mechanic. Then something incredible happened. Could you create a story outline in third-person perspective for my YouTube channel, HFY Sci-Fi? The beginning should include a 5 to 7 minute hook or suspenseful scene that captures viewers' attention and encourages them to watch the entire video. I will only provide you with the title. The story should be completed in 7 parts, and every part needs to remain engaging so the audience never gets bored. Use simple and basic English throughout, with straightforward vocabulary. Part 1, smiley face, write about 800 words. Ensure it is interesting in third-person style and written in simple, basic English in paragraph form. For Part 2 and onward, make the story even more unique and engaging. Each part should be around 800 words. The workshop was filled with the sharp crackle of electricity and the steady beat of rain against the walls. Evan stood over the table, watching the faint glow of the alien panel on the child's chest. The coupler he had connected gave only a weak and temporary charge. He could already see the light dimming again. The child's breaths came shallow, uneven, each one sounding weaker than the last. The mother leaned close, her enormous frame bent awkwardly inside the human-sized room. Her claws tapped the floor as if she could not stay still. Her golden eyes locked on Evan, and he could feel the weight of her expectation pressing down on him. He was only a mechanic, not a doctor, not an engineer of alien machines. Yet she spoke as if he was the only one in the galaxy who could save her child. "What is this core?" he asked quickly, already digging through his crates of salvage parts. The mother's voice was rough, and it shook as she spoke. "Life core. It keeps blood strong. It carries air. It feeds heart." She touched the glowing panel on the child's chest. "It broke when ship was torn. Without it, my son will die." Evan's hands froze for just a second. A machine was easy. A machine could be patched, rewired, or rebuilt. But this was no simple engine. The core wasn't only powering implants. It was keeping the body itself alive. He had never seen anything like it. He forced himself to focus. If I can stabilize it, he might live. But I need to understand how this thing draws power. The connectors are nothing like ours. The dragon mother bent lower, her voice trembling. "I cannot fix it. You must." Evan pulled a crate of scrap closer. He dumped the pieces onto the floor, old drives, broken conduits, and discarded colony power cells. He began sorting through them, looking for anything that might act as a regulator. The problem was clear enough. The core was failing to hold charge. It was like an engine running without oil. Something inside was cracked. He crouched and pried open a damaged shuttle capacitor. Inside, he found a small coil that still worked. It was crude compared to alien tech, but he had nothing else. His hands worked quickly, splicing wires and twisting parts into a crude adapter. While he worked, he asked, "Who attacked you?" The mother's tail curled tight around her. Her voice lowered into a growl. "Hunters. Mercenaries sent by enemies of my clan. They found us in the void. They fired until our ship broke apart. I escaped with my son. No ship, no crew, only him." Her words carried a weight of sorrow and rage. Evan risked a glance at her. Blood still dripped from her torn wings. Her scales bore burn from weapons fire. She had fought hard to survive, and now she had walked into a storm, risking everything, only to reach his lonely workshop. Evan bent over the child again. He connected his makeshift adapter to the core panel. Sparks flared, but then the blue light steadied, glowing brighter for a few moments. The boy's breathing eased a little, and his small claws twitched as though he dreamed. The mother let out a sharp exhale. "You are doing it." Evan shook his head. "This is only temporary. These parts weren't made for this. If I don't rebuild the damaged piece inside the core, this will keep failing. I don't have the right tools." The dragon mother leaned closer, her hot breath washing over him. "You will find a way." Her words were not a request. They were a command. Evan swallowed hard, but he did not argue. Hours passed as he worked. The storm outside never slowed, and the rain kept slamming against the shutters. Evan stripped wires, soldered connectors, and forced human parts into alien sockets. More than once the system spat sparks and died, and he had to start again. His hands grew blistered, and his eyes burned with exhaustion, but he refused to stop. The child's condition worsened each time the core lost power. At one point, the glow nearly faded to black. The boy's chest stilled, and Evan's heart leapt into his throat. He slammed the spare battery directly into the coupler, and the glow returned. The child gasped again, clinging to life by the thinnest thread. The mother's growl shook the room. "Faster, human." "I'm trying." Evan shouted back, sweat running down his face. "I don't even know how this machine was built. It's alive and metal at the same time. I'm patching holes with scraps. Do you understand that?" The dragon stared at him for a long moment, then lowered her head. Then, "Teach me. Tell me what you need." Her tone had changed. No longer demanding. It was closer to pleading. Evan blinked at her. He had never expected Dravari to ask for guidance from a human. But then, he remembered the child on the table. Desperation makes equals of anyone. "I need steady power. The cells I have will run out. Your ship. Do you have anything left from it?" Her claws slid across the floor as she pulled a scorched piece of metal from beneath her wing. Only this fragment. The rest burned. Evan took it carefully. It was part of a conduit, charred but still intact. He recognized the alloy, stronger than anything humans produced. If he could merge it with his adapter, it might just hold the charge longer. He began to work again, fusing the alien fragment with human parts. His fingers shook, but not from fear this time. He was building something new, something no one on Earth or the colonies had ever tried. Human scrap and alien steel, bound together to save a child. As he worked, he spoke without looking up. "What's his name?" The mother's voice softened. "Kalen." Evan nodded. "Kalen. Then let's keep him alive." By dawn, the storm had eased, and pale light leaked through the cracks of the shutters. Evan's table was a mess of wires, tools, and broken parts. In the center, the child lay still, but his chest now rose with a steadier rhythm. The panel glowed brighter, pulsing in time with his heartbeat. Evan slumped back in his chair, rubbing his sore eyes. The core was still cracked inside, but his hybrid adapter was buying them time. Maybe hours, maybe days, depending on how hard it was pushed. The mother lowered her head until her snout was only inches from Evan's face. "You have done what I could not." Evan looked up at her. "This isn't finished. If those mercenaries are still hunting you, they'll come here. And if they find you, they'll kill us all." Her golden eyes narrowed. The low rumble of engines grew louder, rolling over the rooftops of the quiet colony. Evan stood frozen, his hands still on the table where the dragon child lay. The sound wasn't from colony transports. It was deeper, sharper, the kind of hum you only heard from warships. The mother's head snapped toward the door, her golden eyes narrowing to thin slits. The spines along her back lifted, and a low growl rumbled from her throat. She didn't need to explain. The hunters had found them. Evan's heart thudded in his chest. "How did they track you so fast?" The mother's gaze didn't leave the window. "They never stopped. They will follow until we are ash." He looked down at Kalen, the child still breathing weakly on the table. The adapter he'd built kept the core stable for now, but it was fragile. One hard hit, one wrong move, and it would fail. He had to get them out of sight before the hunters landed. "Help me move him," Evan said quickly. The mother didn't hesitate. With surprising gentleness for her size, she lifted the boy into her arms. Evan grabbed his toolkit and a small case of spare power cells. He led her to the back of the workshop, where a heavy trapdoor was hidden under a pile of scrap metal. He pushed the metal aside and pulled the hatch open. A cool draft rose from below. "Down here," he said. "It's an old maintenance hangar. No one uses it anymore." The mother crouched low, her wings folding tight as she stepped into the darkness below. Evan followed, pulling the hatch shut above them. They descended the narrow stairs into the underground space. The air smelled of dust and old fuel, but it was dry and quiet. At the far end of the hangar sat a shape under a tarp, a small, battered shuttle that hadn't flown in years. Evan had planned to scrap it for parts someday, but now it might be their only way out. "Put him here," Evan said, pointing to a long workbench. The mother laid Kalen down and watched as Evan checked the adapter again. The core's glow was steady but faint. Above them, The engines roared closer. The sound of landing struts striking the ground shook the walls. "They're here," the mother growled. Evan's mind raced. "If they scan the workshop, they'll find the trapdoor. We need to block it." The mother bared her teeth. "I can hold them off." Evan shook his head. "No. If you fight them head-on, you'll die, and Kaylin will be alone." She stared at him for a long moment, then gave a sharp nod. "What is your plan?" He glanced toward the old shuttle. "We hide until they think this place is empty. Then we leave. But if they come down here, I've got something that might slow them." He crossed a hangar and pulled open a metal locker. Inside were 3 colony defense drones, outdated, rusted, and barely functional. He had salvaged them from an old security contract. The mother tilted her head. "Those are weak." Evan grinned faintly. "They're weak for a colony, but I've got something new in mind." He dragged one of the drones onto the workbench, right next to Kaylin. With quick movements, he connected a cable from the drone's power port to the alien adapter. The tech hummed, lights on the drone flickering to life. The mother's eyes widened. "You're using his core?" "Just as a bridge," Evan said. "The adapter I built is syncing with human tech. That means I can run the drones at triple their old output, enough to make the hunters think twice." He activated the first drone, then started work on the second. His hands moved fast. There wasn't much time. Above, muffled voices echoed through the storm. The hunters were spreading out. The mother crouched near the stairs, listening. 3 ships. At least 10 warriors. Heavy weapons. Evan's stomach tightened. 10 armed aliens against a mechanic, a wounded mother, and a half-dead child. Not good odds. But he'd take any edge he could get. The first clank of boots hit the workshop floor above. Metal rattled as someone kicked over tools. The mother's growl deepened, low and dangerous. "They are searching," she whispered. Evan kept working, forcing himself to ignore the thuds and crashes above. He attached the last cable to the third drone, the adapter's blue glow pulsing brighter with each link. Then a loud metallic bang. The trapdoor above shifted. "They found it," Evan said. The mother's wings twitched. "Let them come." "No," Evan said sharply. "We hold them here, not fight them head-on." He tapped the controls, sending the 3 drones hovering into the air. Their lights turned from dull yellow to sharp blue, alien blue. The hybrid systems were alive now, stronger than they had ever been. The trapdoor burst open, and a shadowed figure dropped into the hangar. The first hunter landed in crouch, weapon raised. He was tall, armored in black plates, with a helmet that hid his face. Behind him, more shapes followed, boots slamming into the metal floor. Evan didn't wait. "Now!" he shouted. The drones shot forward, their weapons spitting arcs of blue energy. The hunters stumbled, caught off guard by the speed and power. Sparks filled the air, lighting the hangar walls. The mother roared, her voice shaking dust from the ceiling. She leapt forward, her claws raking across the nearest hunter's armor, sending him crashing into a wall. The drones moved like predators, weaving through the air, striking and retreating. The hunters fired back, bolts of plasma tearing chunks out of floor and walls. Evan ducked behind the workbench, shielding Kaylin with his body. "Hold them back," he shouted. The mother's tail whipped like a steel cable, knocking another hunter into a stack of fuel drums. One spark was all it took. The drums erupted in a fireball, filling the hangar with heat and smoke. "Time to go," Evan yelled. The mother grabbed Kaylin, cradling him close. Evan sprinted to the old shuttle and yanked the tarp away. Dust billowed, revealing the scarred hull. "Will it fly?" the mother asked. Evan didn't answer. He was already climbing into the cockpit, flicking switches and praying the old systems would wake. Lights flickered, engines coughed, and the control panel came alive. Behind them, the drones were falling one by one, shot out of the air. The hunters pushed forward, weapons blazing. Evan shouted over the noise, "Get in!" The mother leapt into the shuttle, folding her wings tight. The hatch slammed shut behind her. Outside, the hangar shook with another explosion. Evan gripped the controls. "Hold on." The engines roared, and the shuttle's landing gear lifted off the floor. The rear thruster spat fire, and the next heartbeat, the ship shot forward, straight toward the hangar doors. The old metal doors didn't open fast enough. The shuttle tore through them, scattering shards into the storm outside. They were in the air, but the hunters weren't far behind. The shuttle shook violently as it punched through the storm clouds, rain streaking across the cracked canopy. Evan's hands were tight on the controls, fighting to keep the craft steady. The old engines howled, and warning lights blinked angrily on the panel. Behind him, the Dragon Mother crouched in the narrow cabin, shielding Kalen with her body. The child's chest panel still glowed, but the light was weaker than before. Every jolt of turbulence made Evan's stomach tighten. The adapter he built was never meant for this kind of strain. "How far until we lose them?" the mother asked, her voice low and tense. Evan risked a glance at the scanner. 3 dots followed close behind, moving fast. "Not far enough. They're gaining." The mother growled. "We cannot outfly them. My wings are torn. Your craft is slow. We must do something else." Evan's mind raced. He couldn't fight them in the air. The shuttle had no weapons worth mentioning. But maybe he could give them something they didn't expect. He glanced at Kalen, his small claws twitching weakly. The core pulsed, struggling to keep rhythm. The hybrid link between the adapter and the old human tech in the shuttle was faint, but there. And if it could power drones, maybe it could power something bigger. Evan turned in his seat. "Listen to me. The same system I use to boost the drones is tied into the shuttle now. If I reroute it through the main engines, it might give us a burst. We could outrun them for just long enough to get away." The mother's eyes narrowed. "Will it harm him?" Evan hesitated. The truth was he didn't know. The connection would draw on the core's energy, which came from Kalen himself. It might weaken him, but without that burst, the hunters would catch them in minutes. "If we don't do this," Evan said slowly, "they'll kill us all." The mother didn't speak. She looked down at her son, her talons brushing gently across his small face. Then she looked back at Evan and gave a single, firm nod. "Do it." Evan turned back to the controls, pulling open a maintenance panel at his feet. Wires spilled out, some frayed, others coated in dust. He yanked 2 free and jammed them into the adapter's ports. The shuttle's lights flickered, and the engines gave a low, hungry growl. On the scanner, the hunters were closing fast. Plasma bolts streaked past the canopy, glowing blue in the rain. "Hold him steady," Evan called. The mother crouched lower, wrapping her wings tighter around the child. Evan twisted a dial, and the adapter's glow brightened, feeding the shuttle's core. The hum of the engines rose higher, the vibrations running through the cabin. Then, with a deep roar, the shuttle surged forward like it had been struck by a giant's fist. The clouds tore past in a blur, the scanner dots falling behind. "They are slowing," the mother said, her voice edged with relief. Evan exhaled, but didn't let go of the controls. The burst wouldn't last long. And then he saw something he hadn't expected. The shuttle's readings were cleaner, smoother. The alien energy wasn't just forcing the engines harder, it was optimizing them, syncing with the human systems as if they had always belonged together. It was more than a boost. It was a link. A weak sound made him turn. Kalen's eyes were half open now, glowing faintly like molten gold. He looked at Evan and spoke a word that Evan didn't understand, soft, musical, with a weight that felt far greater than its length. The mother's eyes widened. She leaned down, her voice almost a whisper. "He called you Sherivan." Evan frowned. "What does that mean?" Her gaze locked on his, serious and unblinking. "It is our word for one who was given life when all was lost. It is the bond, not of blood, but of soul. It is never spoken to an outsider." Evan didn't know what to say. The storm outside, the danger behind them, all of it faded for a moment. The boy he had met only hours ago had looked at him and called him family. The moment was cut short by a sharp beep from the scanner. Evan's eyes snapped back to the panel. 2 dots were gone, but one was still there, and it was much bigger. They called in something heavier. Evan muttered. The mother shifted. "What is it?" Evan tapped the scanner. "A gunship. Twice our size. If they catch up, they'll blow us out of the sky. He thought fast. The burst still had some strength left, but it wouldn't be enough to stay ahead forever. The gunship was already lining up its approach. They needed cover, someplace to disappear. Scanning the terrain ahead, he spotted a jagged range of canyons, half buried in storm clouds. "Hold on," he said, banking the shuttle sharply. The hull groaned as they dove toward the cliffs. The mother braced herself, wings pressed tight to keep from hitting the walls. Rain lashed the canopy, and wind screamed past them. Evan threaded the shuttle between rock spires, the cliffs so close they scraped the wingtips. The gunship followed, but the narrow passages slowed it down. Plasma bolts slammed into the canyon walls, throwing shards of stone into the air. Evan gritted his teeth. "Come on, just a little deeper." Finally, they rounded a sharp bend, and Evan spotted it. A hollow in the cliffside, wide enough to hide the shuttle. He cut the engines, letting the craft glide silently into shadow. The alien energy in the adapter dimmed, the hum fading to a whisper. The gunship roared past overhead, not seeing them. Silence filled the cabin. Only the sound of the storm outside remained. The mother let out a slow breath. "You saved us again." Evan shook his head. "We're not safe yet, but we've got time now." He checked Kalen. The boy's breathing was still steady, though his glow was faint again. The energy they'd pulled for the engines had taken a toll. Evan knew he couldn't risk that kind of draw again, without finding a way to repair the life core properly. The mother rested her claw gently on Evan's shoulder. "When this is over, I will tell my people what you have done. You will not be forgotten." Evan looked at her, rain dripping from his hair, and for the first time since this began, he believed her. But far away, in the clouds beyond the canyon, the hunters were regrouping, and Evan knew they would come again. The canyon shadow gave them a short rest, but Evan knew it wouldn't last. The hunters would search every rock and ridge until they found them. The old shuttle was not built for long fights, and Kalen's core was still fragile. Evan stared at the darkened controls, his mind turning fast. "We can't run forever. If they keep chasing us, they'll corner us in space. We need a place we can fight back, somewhere I know better than they do." The mother tilted her head. "Where?" Evan's eyes narrowed. "My junkyard." It was risky, but it was the one place in the colony where he had traps, tools, and enough scrap to turn into weapons. If they could lure the hunters there, maybe they could even the odds. He powered up the shuttle, guiding it low through the canyon to avoid the scanners. The engines were weak, but the terrain was familiar. Hours later, the rusted shapes of old cargo haulers, mining rigs, and colony trucks came into view. The sprawling field of metal towers and broken machines looked like nothing more than a graveyard, but Evan knew it like the back of his hand. They landed between two massive stacks of scrap. Evan stepped out, the rain dripping from his hair, and looked around. The air smelled of rust and wet soil. He had built hidden lifts, camouflage platforms, and even buried fuel lines here. Now, all of it would be useful. He turned to the mother. "I need you to keep Kalen hidden in the old storage bunker. No matter what happens, don't let anyone near him." Her golden eyes narrowed. "And you? Will you face him alone?" Evan shook his head. "Not alone. With every piece of junk I've got." While she carried Kalen to safety, Evan ran from one end of the yard to the other, activating his old systems. Steel shutters groaned open, revealing half-built drones, plasma cutters, and reinforced loader mechs. He linked them all to the adapter signal, letting the alien tech give them speed and precision. By the time the mother returned, the junkyard was alive with movement. Loader arms swinging into position, drones hovering, and the glow of hidden turrets peeking from piles of scrap. "They'll be here soon," Evan said. The first sign was a sound, low, heavy engines cutting through the wind. Then came the lights, sharp beams sweeping over the rusted towers. 3 hunter craft descended, kicking up clouds of dust and rain. Their soldiers poured out, armored in black and silver, weapons glowing with charged energy. They spread into the yard, moving cautiously between the towers of junk. Evan crouched on a platform above them, headset linked to his machines. "Welcome to my yard," he muttered. Then he pressed the first switch. A loader mech roared to life, swinging a massive steel beam into the nearest hunter. The impact sent the alien flying into a stack of broken engines, sparks erupting from his armor. The rest shouted in their own language, weapons firing. Blue bolts sliced through the rain, but the drone shot back, weaving between piles of scrap and cutting down 2 more hunters before they could react. The mother moved like a shadow between the towers, her claws flashing in the dim light. She struck from the sides, dragging hunters into the dark before they could even raise their weapons. Her roars echoed through the yard, making even the armored enemies hesitate. Evan's fingers flew across the controls, triggering another trap. A hidden crane swung overhead, dropping a load of rusted metal sheets onto 2 hunters, pinning them to the muddy ground. One of the soldiers spotted Evan's position and fired. The blast tore through the platform, forcing Evan to leap down onto a lower stack. He landed hard, pain shooting through his knee, but he kept moving. Another switch, and a fuel line beneath the ground ignited. Flames shot upward in a wall of fire, cutting the yard in half and forcing the hunters into a narrow path. "That's it," Evan said, gritting his teeth. "Come right where I want you." 2 drones swooped in from above, firing streams of blue energy into the path. The hunters tried to push forward, but confined space made them easy targets. The mother struck from behind, claws tearing through their armor, but the hunters were well trained. One broke through the line, leaping toward the bunker where Kalen was hidden. The mother saw him and charged, slamming her shoulder into him so hard the metal plates of his armor buckled. Evan caught sight of a new problem. The largest hunter yet stepping into the yard. His armor was heavier, his weapon twice the size of the others. Each blast from it tore chunks out of the towers. Evan had one trick left. He sprinted toward the central control rig, an old crane with a giant magnetic lift. He climbed into the seat, powered it up, and swung the magnet over the giant hunter. With a loud hum, the magnet activated, yanking the alien's weapon from his hands and pulling it upward until it clanged against the crane's frame. The mother didn't waste the opening. She lunged, tackling the big hunter to the ground. The fight was quick and brutal, claws against armor, tail against helmet. When she rose, the hunter didn't move again. The rest of the soldiers hesitated, glancing between their fallen leader and the human who had somehow turned a pile of trash into a fortress. Then, one by one, they retreated toward their ships. Engines roared, and in moments, the yard was quiet again. Evan climbed down from the crane, breathing hard. The rain had stopped, but the air was still heavy with smoke. The mother approached, her wings folding back. Kalen cradled safely in her arms. "You fought well," she said. Evan managed a tired smile. Not bad for a mechanic. But he knew this wasn't over. The hunters had been driven away, not destroyed. They would return, and next time, they might bring more than soldiers. The junkyard was silent now, except for the soft crackle of cooling metal and the faint hum from Kalen's chest core. The storm clouds above were breaking apart, revealing streaks of pale dawn. But Evan knew the quiet wouldn't last. "They'll be back," he said, scanning the sky. "And next time, they won't send a small team." The mother's golden eyes narrowed. "Then we leave this world." Evan glanced at the old shuttle hidden between the stacks of scrap. Its hull was dented, its wings patched, and one thruster was held together by welding wire and hope. That thing wasn't built for long travel. If we push it into orbit, it might fall apart. Her claws tightened around Kalen. It must hold. He cannot survive another battle here. Evan hesitated, looking at the boy. The glow in the chest panel was steady for now, but faint. If they stayed, the hunters would find them, and the fight would be worse than the last. Leaving was dangerous, but staying was certain death. "All right," he said. "Then we leave. But I need to make some changes first." He set to work, stripping the most valuable pieces from the drones and the loader mechs, fitting them into the shuttle's frame. He installed a jury-rigged shield emitter from an old mining rig, bolted a scrap-made turret to the belly, and patched the fuel lines with pieces from a cargo hauler. The mother worked beside him, lifting heavy plating and helping him seal the hull. Her wounds were still raw, but she didn't slow. Her movements were sharp, efficient, the movements of a warrior preparing for another fight. By nightfall, the shuttle looked less like a transport and more like a strange hybrid. Human rust and alien precision fused together. Evan ran a final check. This will get us into space. After that, we'll have to think fast. They loaded Kalen into a narrow medical bunk in the back. Evan connected the adapter to the bunk's power feed, so the shuttle systems could help keep the life core stable during the flight. The mother crouched near her son, brushing his small face with the back of a claw. Then she looked at Evan. "When we reach my world, you will be honored. I will make them remember your name." Evan gave a faint smile. "Let's just make sure we live long enough for that." They boarded, sealing the hatch. The engines growled to life, rattling the frame. Evan eased the shuttle upward, the thrusters lifting them above the towers of scrap. The colony stretched out below, a patchwork of metal roofs, dirt roads, and scattered lights. Evan felt a twinge in his chest. He had spent years here, fixing broken machines, trading parts, keeping his head down. Now he was leaving, maybe for good. The climb through the atmosphere was rough. The shields flickered, sparks dancing along the edges of the hull as the air thinned. The old ship shook, but it held together. Then they broke through into the black of space. Stars spread out around them like cold fire, and the planet's curve faded beneath. Evan let out a slow breath, but it didn't last. The scanner lit up with 3 signals. Ships, closing fast. The mother leaned forward, her voice sharp. Hunters. The largest of the ships was a sleek black shape with spiked wings, the kind of gunship built for pursuit. The 2 smaller escorts flanked it like predators circling prey. Evan's hands tightened on the controls. "We can't outrun them. Not for long." The gunship opened fire, green bolts streaking through the void. Evan twisted the shuttle into a roll, the shots flashing past their hull. The shield sparked, and warning alarms screamed in the cockpit. The mother gripped the side rails, her tail lashing. Return fire. Evan hit the turret controls. The scrap-made cannon under the belly spat a line of blue plasma. One of the escort ships swerved, armor sparking, but it kept coming. "They'll tear us apart," Evan muttered. Then he glanced at the adapter's readings. The alien energy flowing from Kalen's core was still synced with the shuttle. It was risky, dangerously so, but it could push the systems beyond their limit. He turned to the mother. "If I boost the engines and weapons through the adapter, we might have a chance. But it could drain him too fast." Her gaze flicked to her son, then back to Evan. "Do it. I will not let them take him." Evan flipped the switches. The adapter's glow brightened, and the shuttle systems roared to life. The shields thickened, weapons hummed with new energy, and the engines kicked hard, throwing them forward. They weaved the hunter's fire, the turret spitting back with deadly accuracy. One escort ship caught a direct hit, its wing breaking apart in a spray of molten metal. It spun away into the dark. The gunship pushed closer, its weapons lighting the void. Evan aimed for a dense asteroid field ahead. "Hold on." They plunged into the drifting rocks, weaving between tumbling stone and ice. The hunters followed, but the narrow gaps favored the smaller, faster shuttle. Evan twisted hard, guiding the ship into a tight gap between 2 massive asteroids. The gunship tried to follow and clipped one of the rocks. The collision tore one of its wings away, sending it spinning into the dark. The last escort broke off, engines flaring as it retreated. Silence filled the cockpit, except for the soft hum of the systems. Evan's grip eased on the controls. They had made it. The mother turned, checking Kalen. The glow in his chest was weaker now, but his breathing was steady. Evan adjusted their course. "Where to?" The mother stared out at the stars. "My home. You'll see it soon." As the shuttle slipped out of the asteroid field and into the open void, Evan couldn't help but wonder what waited for him there, and if he was ready for it. The journey through deep space was long, but no more hunters came. Evan spent the hours in the cockpit, watching the stars slide past. The old shuttle systems held together better than he dared to hope, though the adapter's glow had faded to a softer blue. Behind him, the mother sat with Kalen, keeping him warm under the fold of her wings. Every so often, she touched the boy's chest panel, as if to reassure herself that the light was still there. Evan adjusted the controls. "We'll be there soon. You should rest." Her golden eyes met his. When I rest, it is on my world with my son safe. Not before. Hours later, the scanners lit up. A massive shape filled the forward view, a world of swirling oceans and silver clouds. And above it, floating like a crown in the heavens, was a city of light. Towers of crystal and metal rose from wide platforms, connected by glowing bridges. Ships glided between them like silver fish. Evan stared. "That's your home." The mother's voice held pride. "The high city of the Dravari. My clan has ruled here for centuries." As they approached, a formation of sleek dragon-shaped ships surrounded them. Evan's hands tightened on the controls, but the mother raised one claw toward the comm panel. "I am Commander Seraph of the Skyfawn clan. Lower your weapons. I return with my son and the human who saved him." The escort ships broke formation and led them into a wide docking bay. The moment they landed, the hatch opened to the sound of heavy footsteps. Dozens of Dravari warriors stood in a half-circle, their armor gleaming, their eyes fixed on Evan. He stepped down the ramp slowly, feeling very small under their gaze. The air was warm, filled with the scent of metal and smoke. Seraph walked beside him, carrying Kalen. The warriors bowed their heads slightly as she passed, not in fear but in respect. They entered a vast hall where the walls shimmered with banners bearing the Skyfawn crest. At the far end, a raised platform held a council of elder dragons, their scales silver with age, their eyes bright with authority. One of the elders leaned forward. "Commander Seraph, you were thought lost." And the child, his gaze fell on Kalen. "The heir of your bloodline lives." A murmur of relief swept through the hall. Sarah stepped forward, her voice carrying clearly, "He lives because of this human." She turned to Evan and gestured for him to step beside her. Evan felt the weight of 100 eyes as he moved forward. Sarah continued, "He is no soldier, no healer, yet he faced our hunters, fought beside me, and gave his skill to save my son when all hope was gone. Without him, the blood of the Skyfawn would have ended this day." The elders spoke in low tones among themselves. Then the eldest, a towering dragon with scales like white steel, stood. "Human Evan Cole, you have given life where death had already taken hold. In our tongue, you have become Sheravan." Evan remembered that word, the same one Kalen had spoken in the shuttle. The elder's voice deepened. "This is a bond not lightly given. From this day, you are life brother to the Skyfawn clan. Our halls are open to you. Our enemies are your enemies. Your name will be written in the book of honor." The hall erupted in a low, rumbling sound, not anger, but approval. Evan wasn't sure what to say. He cleared his throat. "I just did what I could. I fixed things. That's all I know how to do." Saratha's golden eyes softened. "And in doing so, you fix more than a machine. You fix what my enemies tried to destroy." Kalen stirred in her arms and looked up at Evan. His chest panel glowed a little brighter. "Sheravan," he said again, the word clear and certain. Evan felt something twist in his chest, a strange mix of pride and responsibility. The elders stepped down from the platform. One carried a silver clasp shaped like a dragon's wing. He pinned it to Evan's jacket. "Wear this, and you are known as one of us, wherever you walk in the galaxy." Evan looked around at the hall, at the banners, at the warriors whose expressions had shifted from suspicion to respect. He thought of his small workshop back on the colony, the rust and dust, the nights working alone. That life felt far away now. Seraph leaned close enough that only he could hear. "Stay here. Teach us your ways as we teach you ours. The galaxy is changing, and bonds like this will matter." Evan met her gaze and nodded slowly. "All right, but I'll need a workshop." A deep laugh rolled for her throat. "You will have one, the likes of which you have never seen." The great doors of the hall opened again, revealing the city beyond. Bridges glittered in the light of the twin suns, and the sound of dragon wings filled the air. Somewhere out there was a place where Evan Cole, a simple human mechanic, had just been given a place in the stories of another world. And for the first time, he knew he wasn't just fixing machines anymore. He was building something far greater.